vocal tract exercises. Fancy word for things like bubbling or humming. Some people may have done like an open mouth hum where you have like an ah, but you cover your mouth. There's a number of those semi-occluded, partially blocked vocal tract, okay? And the straw techniques are also semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Some of you may have used the skinny straw technique. Anybody used skinny straws before? Okay, so the skinny straws have a lot of value as well. This is a kind of variation on the theme, if you will, and it was developed in, I don't know if it was more Europe or Turkey, but it was in both of those places things going on with laryngologists and vocal therapy things, and this became a vocal therapy device. They call it LaxVox tubes. LaxVox, like relaxed voice tubes. And so from that, we kind of have been developing this like whole way of using them as not just a vocal therapy, but also for warm-ups and keeping the voice in good condition. So let's see, the primary objective of doing this is to find your target voice. The target voice is your voice that is most optimal for you for singing based on your physiology and your basic makeup. So it's not trying to create something or artificially put something else in, it's just to open up and free up what's naturally there. It opens up the resonance space. So I'm kind of giving you kind of some of the goals before we get too far into it. As a voice therapy device, it's used when people are recovering from things like polyps or lesions on the vocal cords. In the past, it was thought complete vocal rest is the best thing. And so you can go months sometimes in a vocal rest thing, but there's a lot of atrophy that happens. In fact, the voice starts to atrophy after 3 days of non-use. And so this therapy device allows people to be working on their voice while they're recovering from those kinds of things, because it's a healthy way to do that. One of the things about semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, all of them, is they create what they're calling a healthy back pressure on the top of the vocal cords. So if you think about when we're singing, air comes from below the vocal cords and puts pressure below them, correct? Kind of how the voice works. Well, if you blow, everybody kind of close your lips and blow up the inside of your cheeks like this. Okay, so now you've created an air pressure inside your mouth, yes? The bottom of which is your vocal cords. And so in that case, your vocal cords are probably open, but at the same time, you get the idea that when you have air filling that space, it puts pressure down on the top of the vocal cords. That's the back pressure, okay? And so this device and the skinny straw and lip trills all do that kind of thing where it puts a healthy back pressure on the vocal cords, balancing the under pressure, which is one of the things that makes those such a healthy thing to practice with, okay? So let's see, use this as a warm-up before rehearsals. You can actually have the water bottle handy and just use it in the middle when your voice starts to get fatigued, if it ever does in the middle of a rehearsal, just to kind of reset your voice. It typically takes once you get the hang of this, it only takes 1 to 5 minutes of time. And in fact, in a rehearsal reset, you can just kind of go a couple times in it and you're kind of resetting your voice and getting it back into a good spot. So short periods of time are actually good. In fact, in the therapy device, they recommend that like 1 to 5 minutes several times a day or every hour as you're recovering, but not constantly. Just do a little spurts and kind of keep it going that way. Let's see. It's also a great device for working through the break because of that whole back pressure thing. Before I get into the next phase, we're actually going to record or at least sing through a song before we use anything. This is a special device that was created by a doctor in Turkey that fits on top of a basic water bottle, okay? And has 2 openings here. So there's normal straw, but it has to have a release valve, otherwise the bottle will blow up, okay? So it's the same idea, fancy little thing. The cool thing about this pocket vox, is what this is called, pocket vox, is that the small side, if you fill this with hot water, you can inhale and it humidifies. And it creates kind of a steam or kind of water vapor on your vocal cords, which is much quicker hydration than drinking water, because if you know anything about physiology, you know it takes several hours for the water you drink to actually make it back to the vocal cord level. But hydrating this way, when you just inhale the steam, it goes directly on the vocal cords and you can have some hydration effect right away. So, kind of a useful thing there. Can we sing Heart of My Heart? And I want everybody to just kind of calibrate what it sounds like, what it feels like before we start doing any singing. And I asked Kenny not to do a lot of actual vocal warm-up for that very reason. I want us to feel, start to finish, what happens with the voice. Heart of my heart, I love you. Life would be naught without you. Light of my life, my darling, I love you. I love you. I forget you never. From you I never can sever. Say you'll be mine forever. Good. Make sure we're in correct alignment as we do this. Get good breaths as we go along. I'm going to kind of guide you through some just simple things and several exercises on how you can look at using this. Think about when you breathe, don't get out of position for singing. And when you sing, don't get out of position for breathing. Okay? Maintain both. Straw goes into the water about 2 centimeters. So, of course, with the short straws, some of you are going to drop them in the bottle and then you're going to be screwed. So, sorry about that. My bad. We'll get you correct sizes later. But the main thing is to be able to get it in. Now, the cool thing about the straw is that it's customizable based on the individual's needs. Ed Deerdorf isn't here tonight, is he? He's got a particular kind of paralyzed vocal cord issue that he deals with, and I worked with him a little bit with this too, and they say that kind of thing you may want to have as much as 15 centimeters of water. So there's a lot of pressure, back pressure on that to be able to create phonation for some kind of condition like that. But most adult men, somewhere around 2 or 3 centimeters is typical, okay? How do you know? You'll get the feel for it. What you're going to look for eventually is a balanced pressure. So remember, pressure's coming up from the voice, pressure goes back down to the top from the tube. We try to find this balance where it feels like nothing, okay? Kind of an equilibrium that we'll look for. And so you can adjust that, but I'll say 2 centimeters to start is maybe a good starting point. You want the straw, you want to make sure your lips are around the straw completely so that there's no air going through, otherwise that's cheating, okay? The tongue is relaxed, the cheeks are relaxed. As you work in the bubbles, you should be able to feel bubbles in your cheek as they kind of pop through, you'll feel them, and sometimes even in your throat. You'll feel that, just that sensation. And it's good to keep everything relaxed so you can notice that. The tip of the tongue and lower gum ridge, just like on vowels. Nose closed, no air should be going through the nose. Okay, it's all going into the straw. Again, that's cheating if you let it go through your nose. Plus, part of what we're doing with this exercise is creating the space in the vocal tract. So the vocal tract, if you think about the bottom of it is the vocal cords, the top of the throat is the soft palate. We want that space kind of maintained in a relaxed, open position. Soft palate up, larynx down. Yes? Yes. Okay. So that's kind of the way that whole thing works. So you inflate it with air, and it kind of maintains its space a little better. Okay, good. So first exercise, we're actually not even going to phonate it first. We're just going to blow into the straw. Very slow, steady stream of bubbles. Try to maintain good posture. I know it's hard with the straws like they are, but as much as possible, try to have your head in its correct position. And again, cheeks relaxed. Go for slowest bubbles you can create a steady stream. Slower bubbles is better. And just go ahead and adjust the depth, and you'll start feeling what I'm talking about with the back pressure. The more water it's in, the more more back pressure you feel, the more mouth pressure you feel. And you take it out a little bit, and it kind of eases that up. Well, find the level that feels about right to you at this point. All right. So that's just essentially a kind of preliminary exercise just to get the air flowing correctly. Because when we start to phonate, we have another bit of resistance to that, and that's in the vocal cords themselves. We don't want them to be the one thing regulating how much air goes through. We want our breath muscles to control how much air goes through. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so do one more time on the slow bubble so you can control your airflow. Slower is better, and steady. Like if you could get bubbles going pop, 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 that would be awesome. Good. Now we're going to just sing an ooh into the tube. Doesn't matter what pitch, other than it should be kind of mid, low, comfortable, ooh kind of thing. So you sing ooh into the tube, something like this. So sing ooh into the tube. Go. Good. Just kind of feel that open space. Do you feel the bubbles in your cheeks? Some may feel it in their throat as well. Keep the cheeks relaxed. From the front, you will actually see other people with their cheeks kind of have this little bubbly action going on. If the cheeks are relaxed. If they're tight, you lose that. You want it relaxed. Good. Now here's a trick. Go for, as you're holding that steady, work on, you can go either of two routes. Either one, keep the loudness the same and make the bubbles slower, or keep the bubble stream the same and make the sound louder without changing bubble streams, okay? Figure out another way to make the sound louder without using more air. Okay, here we go. If that note's too low, you can pick any note right now. This is not note specific at all. Slow bubbles, stronger tone. And what that's doing is giving better clarity to the vocal cord phonation. Just extra, there's no extra air going through is the goal. It's a very efficient use of the air. A fundamental concept in good singing. Now just do some short ones and long ones, but for whatever length, let it be the same amount of sound, the same stream of air, the same dynamic for whatever that puff happens to be. Okay, so it's not going to explode. Wah, wah, wah. It'll be ooh, 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 ooh. And then some longer ones. Okay, so just kind of experiment with that. Whatever length you want to go. Do some shorter, some longer. Come on in, Joe. Next one, some sirens. So just going higher and lower. You don't do anything so extreme that it's painful, but you can go as high or as low as you want. You could even go into a vocal fry if you want to into the straw. But the main thing is just now just kind of feeling the relaxed open space throughout your range, keeping the steady airflow. And I know with the short straws, it's difficult not to do this. If you can eliminate some of that, more straight up posture is going to help other things from being kinked up. Great, next exercise, very similar. We're just going to do downward slides through the break. So kind of going, ooh, ooh, ooh. multiple times over the break. Steady air, see if you can go back to that louder, slower concept. Play around right with where the voice wants to break. But move more down through it rather than up through it. Stretch higher and stretch lower now. Another exercise, just kind of onset of tone with a nice open throat, or the nice relaxed tone. So we're going to sing just a 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, and go up by half steps like this. Okay, so kind of staccato, and then the last one you can hold, and then we'll go by half steps. Here's the next one. Cheeks relaxed. Breath from down as low as you feel it. Like a tea kettle bubbling at the bottom. Good. Let's do some octave jumps. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. And. Okay, so the game here is this stays the same. All right, there's not a change in the vocal apparatus when we're doing that. And down a half step. Steady air. Good. So now we're going to take this into actual singing. So this is tubes in and out. I have another thing on this list that we're going through here, and it's just there's some other things you can do, but I'll add that later because this is actually right where we want to go. So taking the idea of the tone, and then in the tube, and the way we sing into the tube, and then take the tube out and sing with the same feel. So let's do it this way. We'll sing a phrase of Heart of My Heart in the tube, next phrase without the tube. And then with the tube, without the tube. Okay? A flat. And everything will be. Actually, you can sing words when you're not using the tube. Ooh, in the tube. easier, okay. Your hand was up for something.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the diameter of the tube measured?
The recommended diameter of the tube is 9 to 10 millimeters or 3/8 of an inch interior diameter. So I assume it does make a difference because there is an actual recommended amount.
So like a drinking straw probably would not.
Milkshake straw is closer. Yeah,
Boba straws?
yeah, milkshake straw is closer.
This took a lot of what I normally do in my warm-up and made it intuitive.
Awesome. That's actually a really astute comment because you should be doing the same things that this creates for us with good breath support and a non-pressurized sound and relaxed open tone, right? I mean, those are all things we strive for anyway, right? So, and it makes it more intuitive. It just kind of sets it there. It's almost dummy-proof.
I think the key there is to be aware of what it feels like in your own body when doing these exercises.
Right
While
on.
you're going through this process, ask yourself, what does that feel like in neck, posture, breath, pressure, so that when we're not doing this later on in rehearsal, we can reproduce it on demand. That makes
You will
sense?
immediately go back to, like within 1 to 2 minutes, research shows, go back to what you were doing before at first. Okay? So the effects of the Vox tube don't last all that long at first. The power comes with regular use because you do develop that sense of what it is supposed to be like every time. But you'll maintain this for a few minutes and then you can reset, in the middle of rehearsal, reset, kind of create that again and then you'll have it again for a few minutes and gradually build up that.
What I find is singing a high passage, you sing it once through the tube, and then sing that same passage out, and all of a sudden it's just a whole different experience. Just
Right.
keep on, phrase by phrase, sing with the tube, then without it, and just feel that same sensation is what I recognize.
If you're having trouble on the break, do a few of those slides down through the break and then try it again. Try your issue again. Onsets, when you begin a phrase. Has anybody ever, you probably don't do it yourself, but have you heard your neighbor scoop into a note at the beginning of a phrase? This is a great tool. This is a great tool to help remedy that because you can do the onset here. Because it starts with having to, you have to energize that bubble in the tone, and so everything is aligned ahead of time, and the scoop tends to go away. So you do it here, and then do it here. Kind of thing. Okay. You can do other vowels inside the tube. It's just who is the easiest to get everybody to make sure their lips stay sealed on it at the beginning, and it's a nice relaxed open space. So that's good. But you can try other vowels. It doesn't hurt anything. And sing any exercises, sing songs. It doesn't really matter so much. I gave you some specific ones though because they kind of work some areas of the voice nicely. I have a couple of handouts that I forwarded to Kenny. One of them is just a simple one-page sheet that gives some quick reminders on how to make sure the main things to watch out for. And the other one's much more in-depth, has some of the science behind it, and has a lot more information that you might want to dig deeper into to kind of learn a little bit more about it. Any question? Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I noticed was that when I started a phrase, for a while, I was getting more air at the
Awesome.
start.
Yes. I'm really glad you said that because I think that's a really common problem. It's really common for many singers, I would say nearly all non-professional singers, to push too much air through. Basses have a particular issue with that because they want to sing louder down low, and so what does that mean? Push more air. No, it doesn't. It means be efficient with your voice, use less air, use better clarity of the tone, and it will project as well as your voice is able. But you don't have to push air, okay? Let your air float. Let your air float, not push. So, and that's true in the onsets too. A lot of times we initiate with more air than it requires, and that causes destabilization of the tone instead of, there it is.
I like that feedback.
Awesome, it's a great one. All right, any questions or any other feedback you want to toss out? Pretty simple, easy to use, hard to screw up. Okay, so use it wisely. Have fun.
Thank you.